Live with the Working Fans Podcast, and we are going to talk our top 5 WrestleMania moments today. And we're going to talk about what happened on WWE Raw. We're going to talk about what's coming up on SmackDown, and we'll talk a little AEW Dynamite as well. But first, we're going to do things in a little bit reverse here. We're going to talk about our top 5 WrestleMania moments. And AJ, I know you got a list, I got a list, and their top 5 WrestleMania moments. AJ's going to take people to task here. So some people put down matches, which if that's your moment, I guess that's your moment. The whole match. I just was on pins.
Oh, there's a lot of people that are going to be taking a task on this one. But that's fine.
So, and they're all over the board. So me and AJ, we're probably not even going to keep like necessarily typical score, and we'll just talk about what we think are some of the best moments out of what these people have said. AJ, why don't you kick us off? What do you got?
I've got Anthony Rankin from I don't know where. He's got Austin versus Brett as one of his moments. He's got Savage versus Steamboat as one of his moments. Rock versus Hogan. Eddie versus Angle. And Savage winning it all at WrestleMania 4. Now, if you want to make these moments, that's fine, but let's make them moments. Rock face-to-face with Hogan in front of that Toronto crowd. That's a moment.
Right.
You've got
Bret Hart at WrestleMania 4 could be a moment, like when he
absolutely. That's even if you want to do Austin and Bret, if you want to take the moment where you see Austin pass out from the sharpshooter, which basically makes his career as a face, as a fan favorite, absolutely, that's a moment. Savage versus Steamboat is not a moment. Savage versus Steamboat is one of the greatest matches of all time, unless it's a very long moment.
Now, one question for you. The list you're looking at right now, too. Is that the list I sent you directly in the message?
Yes.
Is there a Blair Krieger happen to be right before that? I just want to make
sure. Yes, that was actually the next person I was going to read.
Let's go ahead and read him too then. Go ahead. I'll take 2.
All right. So Blair actually got it right, and that's why I flip-flopped it for him.
Okay.
Because Blair put Stone Cold in the sharpshooter with blood running down his face.
Yes.
That was the moment. And that's why I saved that for a second, because I wanted to point out how it could actually be done.
Yes.
The first main event with Mr. T, Muhammad Ali, and Liberace, having all those stars there, that's a moment. Brock beating The Undertaker.
That's a moment.
That's a moment.
Right.
Randy and Liz reuniting. Fantastic moment.
Yeah.
That's the Hulk Hogan slamming Andre. Now, if he had said Hulk Hogan versus Andre, he'd be wrong.
Right.
Hulk Hogan slamming Andre. Great moment.
Absolutely. In fact, I'm going to give you my list before I start on the second one, because I have Hulk Hogan beating Andre, because not so much the match, but Hogan at that time in my life beating Andre. I wasn't even the biggest Hogan guy, but the way this match was built and the way it was covered in actual news media and stuff like that just felt like an actual super fight in boxing that I had seen.
Well, let's face it, also for younger fans of the WWF, we bought into it when they told us Andre had never been beaten.
I did. I believe that. Man's never lost.
Yeah, because we never sawe saw him lose. Unless you actually saw other territories where you actually saw it happen. You weren't watching. If you were a WWE fan in the Northeast, you were probably just watching WWE at that time.
Right.
So it made sense. Oh, my God, this guy has never lost. How is Hogan going to overcome him?
15 years undefeated. And here's the thing. Andre had still done very little jobs. So, right. So it's very rare. It's very possible people did not see Andre lose at that time. Right.
Yeah, even the matches where he did lose, if you think about it, like the haircut and stuff like that, the other person in the tag match usually did the job.
Absolutely. Steamboat beating Savage. That's another one from Mania 3, because that right there, that when I ever think of Mania 3, it's always Hogan, Andre, Steamboat, Savage. And it's just those 2 moments. And it's because really it was the hell of a job that Steamboat did. But not only Steamboat, I can look back and go, what Savage did and the way the story they told in that match, so back and forth and the emotion. Excellent job.
Well, not just the match, but the moment he wins is a culmination of everything that went into it. The bell to the throat, the rehab, once again, as a young fan of the WWF in that time period, we thought Savage tried to kill him. That's you even had the storyline in between with George the Animal Steel and Elizabeth, and They did a great job of building the story. So the win itself is absolutely a tremendous moment.
And Bruno trying to choke him out after he did that too. Yeah, it's excellent. Bryan Danielson, Daniel Bryan winning the title at Mania 30, celebrating the aftermath. Bryan getting that moment, such a huge deal. That had to make my list. Daniel Bryan is my favorite wrestler currently today. I have a few favorites from different eras, and Bryan Danielson's definitely still my favorite in this era. And then
great moment. Absolutely, the place went bananas for him. I love Bryan Danielson too. I think he's a great wrestler. It doesn't make my top 5 just because there's so many moments in WWE. But
and then I got Seth Rollins cashing in on Brock and Roman because we finally saw a Money Bank cash in. It's still the only one we've ever seen at Mania. They've talked about this could happen, but it's only happened once, and I think that's why it means something and it's special. And it was surprising, and it was one of those moments you left a WrestleMania buzzing, and that doesn't happen all the time in the last several years. Where you could have some good manias, some bad manias, but even the good manias, sometimes by the time you get to the main event, it's like, all right, that was a good show, it was whatever. But that was a night we left buzzing.
I think the only way that it could be bigger was if somebody cashed in the Money in the Bank on the U.S. title. I think that's really the only way it could be bigger.
I was going to actually not put a fifth one. I was actually, these were 4 I came up with, but I'm going to throw one more in there because, and it may sound silly coming from like a white dude, but I thought it was pretty cool at the time. And I know it was night 1. It's when WrestleMania started doing different nights for WrestleMania. But Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair main eventing WrestleMania 1. And I'll tell you why. It's not only that it's 2 African-American females headlining, but you can see the emotion on their face. Like, Banks is trying to do a good job of be this heel. Belair, you could excuse a little bit. She's the baby face. But Banks, and she does. She goes on to heel greatness. But at the time, you could see the emotion was just so much for these ladies. And it was so much, I remember thinking like, wow, this is crazy. Like, I'm feeling like I'm in this moment because you can feel how real it is to these guys.
No, they're absolutely great moment. You got to love both of them. I don't think you can find a better pure athlete than Bianca Belair. And Sasha Banks is one of the best wrestlers, period, of the last 20 years. That is a loss that the WWE really screwed up on, quite frankly.
Yes, they did. And I'm going to go one more list because mine took forever, but sorry. Producer Joe's brother, who went with the matches, kind of. Undertaker versus Shawn 1, Brett versus Owen, TLC triple threat. The first triple threat probably. Rock, Austin retirement match, and then Bryan, H, and Batista. AJ, I will let you, when you're ready here, go to your next list here.
No, I'm ready. I've got Kevin Dingham. He's got Austin versus Brett because he's gone with the matches also. Hogan versus Rock.
He mixes it.
He does have a moment here. He's got Andre turning babyface.
Yeah.
He's got, let's see here, Warrior versus Savage. And then Owen versus Brett. So only one of them's a legitimate moment. He also wasn't overly clear, as to some of the things that made these moments for him. But hey, you know what? Owen versus Brett, we'll give him that one.
I'll give him that one.
Personally, my highlight is Owen, and this, so I'm not going to go into it too much, but Owen beating Brett was definitely a great highlight at WrestleMania.
It was a great match. I remember thinking that they had to put Owen over in that. But because the way WWE had built up Owen so many years, I actually thought they might not do it. And I remember being legit surprised that Owen won. And I remember actually thinking, well, the Brett's got to win the title. But again, because they actually had done such a good job in this era of Big and Yokozuna, as such a top attraction, I wasn't sure going into that. I actually saw somebody.
Well, plus there were 2 matches.
And they were a Brett fan, but they said it was one of their least favorite main events because they didn't like the finish. And I know what they're talking about. When Yoko falls off the rope, it's like we can't get Brett a clean win. We just get Yoko randomly falling off the ropes.
Well, you got to remember, the other thing that was big about that also was there were 2 main events. So there were 2 shots at the world title. It wasn't like it was one match for sure. Luger had a shot at it also.
Absolutely. And you got another list for us here too?
Absolutely. I got Harry Priest. He's got Hogan versus Andre, the flashbulb moment pre-match.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. Right. When you can see all the photography. Yep.
Exactly. That was a big one. So we got Flair's retirement at the end of his match versus The Undertaker, which would go on to not be Flair's retirement, but that's fine.
Yeah, I'm laughing because I see his next one. I'm looking at it now.
The end of WrestleMania 20.
Tell us what that was. Talk about
He
that.
just liked the fact it was over. It's fine. Yeah. Hogan anointing Savage, which I believe he means the end of the tournament.
Yeah,
where he gave Savage the belt. Ray winning the title for Eddie at WrestleMania 21, which is definitely not going to be on my list, but good one.
Well, I think the thing with that moment is whether you're a Ray fan or not, like they kind of, you can argue, sensationalized Eddie's death a little bit. But even if you get past that and say, okay, well, Eddie would have wanted that. Eddie's a performer and stuff. Ray's eventual title reign, that title reign at least, they had him job out and get beat up by almost everybody. I thought it was one of the worst things they ever did for a champion. Ray would go on to have better title reigns, but that one was not it.
Yeah, nothing against Rey Mysterio for this, but WWE really did a horrible job with that whole scenario.
Absolutely. I'll give you my two. Producer Joe, Daniel Bryan winning the title, Brett versus Owen, Eddie and Benoit winning the titles. Producer Joe will tell you what it was. Brock ending the streak, and Hogan and Andre. So, okay. And then
go you're going to see that Eddie Benoit on a few lists here coming up. So.
We got Randy Osgood here. Shawn versus Razor ladder match, WrestleMania 10. Austin versus Brett, WrestleMania 13. Austin versus Rock, WrestleMania 7. So he went all matches. Bryan, Batista, and Orton, WrestleMania 30. The Hardys, Dudleys, Edge, and Christian, WrestleMania 17. So all great matches. There's definitely memorable moments in those matches. But again, maybe not quite what we're looking for when producer Joe says memorable. Open to interpretation, I know Joe will always say, but I know me and AJ are kind of on the same page here. We're thinking of moments.
Exactly. Speaking of moments, I've got Chris Zoha. And he's got the gimmick battle royal, which I guess could be a moment in itself. The fact that they had all those gimmicks in one place. I agree with him on this one. It's not going to make my list, but it was a hell of a moment. Motorhead performing at WrestleMania 17. That was actually a hell of a moment. Austin powering out of the sharpshooter. Brock ending the streak. Mm-hmm. And number 5, I can't think of another because there's too many.
That's all right. You tried. Well, you got one more, right?
I got one more plus mine.
Yep. So why don't you give me one more? I'll give you 2, and then I'll let you finish with your list.
You got it. So I've got Daniel Backley, friend of the show. Also, you should check out Cage My IQ or Cage IQ.
Cage My IQ.
Yep, I had it right. Sorry. Should have second guessed myself. Seth cashing in. We got Hogan slamming Andre. Brett winning the title and the look of disdain on Owen's face.
Great one.
Eddie and Benoit hugging after both winning the world titles.
Yes.
And Daniel Bryan winning the world title at WrestleMania 30.
A few people had that one.
Yeah.
I got Ryan Damon going to WrestleMania 32 and 35. So he, oh yeah, that's right. This is one. We should put that on there. Seth cashing in. Hogan and Andre. Yes-a-Mania. That's also Bryan Danielson, right? So the Mega Powers exploding. And then I'm just going to go right into John White, who's got Seth cashing in, Ed spearing Hardy for the ladder, Shawn Michaels zipline entrance, Tyson knocking out Michaels, and Undertaker's streak ends. AJ, I am going to pull a swerve on you. I am going to hit our entrance. And when you come back, I'll let you give your list, and we'll decide the winner of this week's 531.
I have a feeling the entrance is not playing.
You can actually hear us during that. But I was looking on, and we could see the entrance on the...
Oh, okay, because usually it plays on ours.
Uh-huh.
And usually you can't see it.
You couldn't see it.
I could not see it.
Okay, I could see mine. That's why I was okay.
Yeah, usually it plays on mine. That's why I was like, I don't
I
think
also
it's
couldn't.
playing.
I wouldn't be able to hear you, which was kind of funny. So, all right, that's all right. AJ, let's go right to your top list.
So I'm glad you went with that one more list because that ended up ruining one that I was the only person who had up until that list. Shawn Michaels getting knocked out by Mike Tyson, which we were actually at the event at that WrestleMania, and I was happy that Dave didn't have it. And I was like, yes, I'm the only one who's got it. And then, of course, the last list had it on it, so that was great. One of my other favorite moments is actually Shawn Michaels in actually his retirement match at WrestleMania, due to the fact that it was just such a tremendous moment to see an end of an era, quite frankly, and to see it come to an end to involve Shawn Michaels. I also have Eddie and Benoit hugging at WrestleMania. I was a huge Benoit fan and an Eddie fan, and to see them both finally get what they deserved, absolutely incredible. Another great moment for me in my childhood was Hogan slamming Andre. Whether you were a fan of wrestling at that time period or not, or no matter who you were going for, they made us believe Andre was undefeated, made us believe nobody could slam him. Hogan did a great job of building up to the point that he was struggling with slamming him. So it was really a great moment. And then my final moment, my final WrestleMania moment, the one that meant probably the most to me, and I think we can all agree with this one, is the moment where Mr. T entered a WWE ring. No, that's not it. I'm going to go with Seth Rollins. I actually love the Seth Rollins match when he comes in to cash out the Money in the Bank. And that to me is what WrestleMania is all about: the surprises, not knowing what's going to happen, big moments, and no bigger moment than him cashing in and stomping Roman's head into the mat.
All right, so to me, it's clear Hogan and Andre are going to be in the finals. We'll leave that there. We need two other people to join them. I'm hearing the Seth Cash-in, Guerrero Benoit, the Sharpshooter, and Bryan Danielson. Those are four.
Yeah, I was going to say, to me, Bryan Danielson and then Eddie and Benoit.
Okay, Eddie and Benoit. What are the other ones we said? Seth's Cash-in.
Seth Cash-in could get into one of those places.
I don't have a problem with that because here's the thing. If you look at those two in particular, they're what kind of closed out Mania, other than the Seth thing. But I would not put the Seth thing for the time period over Benoit and Guerrero or Danielson. And this isn't going to be a cop out, but I'm going to eliminate. I will put Danielson. I put Guerrero and Benoit, but they'll be number 3 because at the end of the day, too, it was a huge moment, but it was a different time period in wrestling where we were shifting towards that, where wrestlers were finally getting a break.
Well, not just that, but Bryan Danielson winning it. You have to remember, wasn't it the year before where he got jobbed out in 25 seconds to Sheamus?
No, it wasn't, but it was a couple years before that because this is like a 2-year journey, basically.
Oh, sorry, yeah, 2 years before. Sorry.
Yeah.
But the point of the matter is that the WWE had treated him and worked against the fans, didn't listen to the fans for 2 years to finally give him what he wanted, and we were all. There's not a single one of us. I mean, I'm sure somebody will text in or whatever. Oh, no, I didn't care. But there wasn't one of us that was not part of that yes movement.
Absolutely. I was going to say, too, you could say Undertaker's streak ending probably should have been in there, too. But, hey, whatever. Honorable mention.
Well, the problem is a lot of us don't actually like that the streak ended.
Right.
So that's the big difference.
Honestly, I like Brock. I like Taker. Wasn't a great match. Wasn't one of their better matches. Taker got a concussion, I believe, in the middle of that, and it just ended up not being a great match. And the finish was kind of flat because we just didn't see it coming.
Yeah, and I know the moment means a lot in the great scheme of things, but it's just not one of my top moments.
Yeah, but Hogan slamming Andre, I think that's got to be number 1, whether you're a Hogan fan or not. And we're not the biggest Hogan fans, in this.
No,
not at all. But it's just, I just thought the shtick got old. But at the end of the day, that moment in that time period, Hogan WrestleMania 1, everything before that, yes, but Hogan slamming Andre, beating Andre, that is the moment that through the end of time, that's what makes Hulk Hogan with a stamp.
Well, it was also another case in point where you could see what a horrible friend Hogan was. he and the way he treated Andre, the way he treated Orndorff, the way he treated Savage. You didn't want to be a friend of Hogan's.
No, you did not. Now, speaking of people you may want to be a friend with or not be a friend of, let's go to this past week's WWE Raw. We'll start off with Roman and Cody and just basically this whole storyline. Obviously, it opened up with the Usos, Sammy and Kevin, and we have that match now. We said we'd probably get something last Friday. We did. Sammy and Kevin finally rekindled, and man, tugging at the heartstrings, emotions. Like, I remember, funny, like talking about different points in wrestling. I remember the Attitude Era. People were telling me how it wasn't all about the matches anymore. Like, people were more excited about the interviews and stuff. And we got so much great athleticism in the matches now. But it's interesting because we're at a time period right now, too, where I think these backstage segments are actually taking over, because we don't talk about backstage segments a lot. It's not necessarily our thing. But these are probably the best well-produced backstage segments I can remember in a long, long time, in terms of like an actual story being told. And when you go throughout the night and you see Roman's coming and the Usos, end up bailing, and Roman makes those little comments about, look to me like they got the better of you, the better of you. And the Usos like, yeah, we'll get him at Mania. And we talked about this off air where Jimmy's like, yeah, I'm mad. I'm mad that I had to be questioned about my brother. I had to be questioned about my loyalty, where it's my fault. And you look at Paul Heyman looking and Roman looking, and then Jimmy's like, I'm going to make Sami Zayn pay. And it's exactly the type of thing that happens when people are abused. They don't see what's right in front of their face sometimes. And the stuff with Roman, just, it's so next level. And then, we built to this thing. I'll let you get a word before we get to Roman Cody, where Roman basically said, Solo, you're going to come out there with me. And then, so before we even talk about Roman and Cody, what about all that stuff that led to that?
Well, the thing is, the fact of the matter is that anything to do with the bloodline right now is gold. Sammy and KO are killing it. They're doing their part, making the friendship important, making that emotional. They're making it real. There's even still that feeling when you do the interviews with Sami Zayn going, it keeps on Jay going, hey, even Jay right there.
Right.
It's only a matter of time before he's going to see the light here and be the main event that he's supposed to be. And then keeping the pressure on with Jimmy going, hey, why am I the scapegoat here? Why isn't Jay to blame? You're not even blaming Jay.
Right.
You're blaming me, and he's the one who's doing it.
Right.
And he's not saying it to them. He's blaming Sammy for it because, like you said, an abusive relationship, it's everybody's fault but the person who's abusing you.
Absolutely.
That's, no, Roman really does love me.
And then, buddy, we get to Cody and Roman. I'm glad you said it when you talked about Jimmy and everything like that, seeing it, because starts off where Roman, he talks all that trash on Cody. And by the way, great stuff. He's got some truth. Cody admits it. You couldn't handle Stardust. You left. You couldn't get over in AEW. Not quite true, but the fans were starting to resent him. So you left. You got over here, and you did get over, and then your pet gave out on you, right? So all elements of truth. Cody acknowledges that. Go ahead.
A good heel.
Yes.
And this is going to be Wrestling 101 for you folks out there. A good heel, a good villain, the true bad guy doesn't lie to you. What they do is they take the little bit of truth and they bury it deep into under your skin so it agitates the crap out of you and makes it so you hate them for it.
Right. And it's good. And there's elements of truth there. And Cody, man, Cody, he has been like, you really, after what happened with Sammy in the Elimination Chamber and the Rumble, you really could have saw this crowd turning on Cody. For the most part, that has not happened. And that's because Cody has more than held his own. And he has been on fire. And you can tell that he's kind of in control. Now, I'm sure he has his bullet points, but Cody acknowledges it. Cody acknowledges what Roman's saying. Cody talks about what it's going to mean, at the end of the day. Cody also acknowledges that some people probably are tired of hearing about Dusty. Cody says, I don't want to hear it again. No one's coming to do a bionic elbow. My brother works in the company. He references his mom, right? And he also says something to Solo where you're not ready. I've been under that. And then to finish it off with, maybe I am just a blood in my mouth, violent professional wrestler, right? And it's all good, and people are cheering, and we're behind Cody in this moment. And then what do? The same thing that always happens. They give us another wrinkle in the storyline. Roman's leaving. Solo didn't leave. He's staring down Cody. And what has happened? And Solo's like, all right, I'll leave. And then Cody makes that comment, just what I thought. You weren't ready. So throws the big spike. He's crazy. Cody just kicks him right in the face. Because, by the way, that's smart. What would you do? You're going to take the time out to do this big, grandiose stance? Oh, okay. You're telling me your move. Kicks him in the face. He's going to get up. Then Roman comes in. The mind control, the abuse again. He's able to get Solo. But now we've set up another possible match, Cody and Solo. And by the way, we're setting up dissension between Solo and Roman. And as Cody talked about, I forgot to include this, he says what's going to happen eventually is all the bloodline will eventually leave you.
So Cody we talked about what Roman did as a pure villain and how what he did was right. Cody did what a good babyface needs to do, what the good guy needs to do. Yes, I'm flawed. I have these characteristics. I've had these problems. I have had these struggles. Get on board with me. We're going to fight these struggles together. We're going to get this done. This isn't the son of Dusty Rhodes coming. This isn't the brother of Goldust coming. This isn't so-and-so coming. This is Cody Rhodes coming after you man on man and with these people in my corner. And he did the right thing there. As for the Solo stuff, you talk about what we talked about before. Roman, whenever anybody starts to actually come up, and we saw it with Sammy first,
right?
When the crowd starts to cheer for you or when you start to do something heroic, like Solo was doing with no, he just insulted me. I'm not going anywhere.
I'm not going to back down. Right.
Exactly. Solo was actually doing what a face would do, where you can't be called out as a face and then back down. As a villain, you absolutely run away. That's a matter of fact. You want to go back to one of the best examples of all time. We talked earlier in the show about the moment where Stone Cold Steve Austin is bloodied in the sharpshooter. There's another moment in that match that is one of the biggest moments in wrestling, and it's when we saw Bret Hart finally as a heel. Right. And it was when Ken Shamrock got in the face of Bret Hart. Hero Bret Hart would have said, "Fuck you, we're going." This Bret Hart said, took steps backwards and headed to the back.
Right.
That's the difference between a heel and a face.
Yeah. And as a lifelong Bret Hart fan at that point too, it was at that point where I said, okay, he's definitely going to be a bad guy now. We're definitely going this. There's no turning back.
These are the little moments. And to be honest with you, I'm a little sad that I didn't list that in my moments earlier in the show, because that was a huge moment in wrestling.
And I'll go one step thing too about Solo too. Solo, we've been setting up this babyface thing for a little while because Solo in all these times has never backed down. It's always the Usos or Roman or somebody pulling him back, saying, no, not now. Let's go.
Yeah, he's got the ability, and this could be somebody who, yes, can face Cody as a heel, but he's also somebody who they could get behind. He was a babyface in NXT.
Right.
People like to cheer for Solo.
Absolutely. Now, one other WWE moment before we get to AEW. Tonight on SmackDown, it's been announced Rey Mysterio will be there with the whole family. Dominic has announced that he will be there as well. Last week, we made the call. We said Kevin Owens and Sammy, are they going to pull the trigger? And are we going to get them, reunited? We said they would, and they did make them. They reunited on SmackDown. They made the match on Raw. AJ, does the angle happen tonight at least to start the match?
They're pulling the trigger tonight.
Right.
They're going to pull the trigger, and it's going to be a very simple trigger. Whatever happens in that ring is going to lead to Ray's wife and Dominic's mom going, it's time. You need to kick his ass and show your son the right way to do things.
Absolutely. And AJ is not the biggest Mysterio fan. He's always said he wasn't very believable. But at the end of the day, I think AJ would even admit this has been a well-orchestrated, built-up storyline.
Absolutely. And so let's be clear about something. I'm not Ray's biggest fan just because it's not my style of wrestling. He is a smaller guy. To me, the believability has always been a little. But I have the utmost respect for what Ray has done. I have the utmost respect for the level at which Ray has carried himself and for the matches that he's had. So while he's not my favorite, I do have respect for him.
Now, let's go from one luchador to another. We'll get this a different. I'm going to break this up. We're going to go a little out of order, a little Tarantino style here. El Hijo Vikingo against Kenny Omega. Awesome match. What did you think of Vikingo? the Vikings.
Absolutely incredible. Some of the spots that he did, that Frankensteiner off the top, whatever the hell that was, and then that springboard freaking 650 through the table. Holy crap!
Right.
You can see why he is the champion that he is, and why this match was as big as it was. These two, quite frankly, could have been on a bigger platform.
Do you remember a couple weeks ago they had a guy named Commander? He was a luchador. He was in one of the battle royals. He was flying around doing all kinds of stuff. They actually just booked the match between Commander and Elvo Kingo for the Ring of Honor pay-per-view coming up. So that should be insane.
Oh my God, that's going to be incredible.
So Omega gets it done. But now let's talk about the storyline here a little bit throughout the show. We start off almost WWE like. There's people are attacked backstage. The Bucks are being loaded in the ambulance and stuff. And Kenny's going to go there with his friends, and Don Callis is like, no, you got a big match tonight to do. We got a dream match. We got to do this. Don Callis here throughout the show. And later on, Kenny's feeling like he should have showed up with his friends. Don's like, just could have been a blessing in disguise. We got the singles career back on. You're Kenny Omega. You're Kenny by God Omega. Go out there and have a dream match. These kids will be back in 6 months. Don't worry about it. You know, you can see the scumbagness of Don, but he's doing it away. Again, almost like the Bloodline. He's manipulating Kenny here.
Everyone else right now in the Elite is going face, except for Don Callis, who is maintaining that swarmy. And I love it. I don't care what people say. People hate Don Callis. You're supposed to hate Don Callis. As someone who's always loved heels and has been a fan of people being just purely bad, I love Don Callis.
Absolutely. And I think we're getting a misdirect here, too, because the Blackpool Combat Club, they win over a Dark Order here. Moxley gets the win over Grayson. They're jumping members of the Dark Order. And now we're supposed to believe they jumped the Bucks through the night. Excalibur making the comment, too. Must have been like, but we've seen Kenosha, Takesha, I believe his name is. Don Callis had been recruiting him at one point. I have to believe Don Callis has got another faction or something is coming up here. And we're going to find out that he's actually behind this. And I think at the end of the day, it's going to be Don turning on Kenny, too, because something tells me that Don's going to be like, you're not the same Kenny you used to be.
I think the reason why Don did the things he did, taking the bump, powdering out when the Blackpool Combat Club came in, I think he's actually with the Blackpool Combat Club. And I think that to get Takesha is going to actually be added to the Blackpool Combat Club.
See, I was thinking maybe a new faction altogether, but you could be right. That makes sense, too.
Well, I also don't think Bryan Danielson's coming back to the Blackpool Combat Club. I think it's going to be the four of them, and I could see them turning not only on Kenny Omega, but turning on Bryan Danielson also.
Oh, I will say this. Don Callis, I'm going to go someplace a little out of the box here. This is probably not necessarily a possibility, but ties to New Japan and everything like that. Kota Ibushi is now a free agent. He's no longer with IW. He has ties with Kenny Omega. They were a team. You could definitely see a storyline here, maybe.
Yeah, I could definitely see storylines where it could be other factions.
Yeah.
This is just where my heart is leading me, where my mind is saying, hey, watch out for this. It's just a little weird the way he powdered out and the way that the Blackpool Combat Club has not hesitated to touch other managers. Why would they not even go after Don Callis?
Good point. Now, finally, FTR, the Gun Club, they're facing off. They're trying to get the match. Hey, we won't challenge you again. They don't care. Hey, we won't team up again. They don't care. And then finally, they said, we'll quit AEW. Okay, you got it. Classic heel stuff. The Guns spit in their face. Now, what's great about this is we know from a real life that Dax Harwood has already said that their contracts end in April. And they've already said they've made a decision. Now, people will say, okay, then that means they're probably with AEW. And I'm leaning towards that. But I do want to point this out. AJ knows where I'm going with this. The kind of wrestlers that we've always got the wrestlers that Harwood and Cash Wheeler are, if they were going to go out, this is how they want to go out. They want to put the Guns over in the biggest possible heel way, make them as heels, and have them go over and beat them. So I can see either way happening because what they're doing is they're basically building up this match. And I think it's tremendous.
I don't care what anybody says about the Gun Club. People will talk about their wrestling, say they're not there yet. And yeah, they're not FTR. No, they're not. Definitely not. However, when it comes to their heel characters and getting over as the bad guys, they're doing a tremendous stuff. Even when you look at the way they interact with the fans at ringside, stuff of that nature, absolutely outstanding. That's people can hate on this team all they want, but I actually think they're doing a great job. As far as FTR, I'm not convinced that they've signed a contract.
Right.
That's which is what they're supposed to do. That's this could literally go either way, right. And I'm actually extremely excited for this match.
And honestly, I would book it this week. I haven't heard anything, but I know the thing ends in April. So, I mean, they weren't very clear, but man, like this week is March 29th. Like, I'd almost want to like just set it up. I wish they had set it up already. Like, just like,
One of the things that does lead me towards FTR staying is the fact that it's after WrestleMania. FTR right. coming in at WrestleMania would be much larger than FTR coming in June.
Well, let's talk. I mean, for 1 second, like here, just as like, we don't know these people, obviously, but as like in life, I'm trying to look at it from like a business standpoint. I don't know all the story, but to me, like if this had been a couple months ago and Vince was still retired and the WWE wasn't possibly up for sale, with everything going on with Triple H and the storyline creative, I would say they probably would end up in WWE. But now I would say with the uncertainty, even though WWE is doing really well creative-wise right now, but they're looking for a big contract and a certain future. With the uncertainty of what WWE is going to be, I would say I could see them leaning towards AEW, and I think it's just timing. I could be wrong, but
Well, not just that, but also the light workload. AEW, both of them. I know with Dax being the family guy that he chance to actually be at home with his family more.
Absolutely. And if you want to be with your family more and you want to be over, there's only one thing to do. Go check it.
Read about the Northern Wrestling Federation in the book presented by Russellville.com, The Pro Wrestling Vault, Volume 2. Hear the story of Roger Ruffin, the man who trained Carl Anderson, the Monster Abyss, Jordan Clearwater, Chris Harris, and Jillian Hall.
Plus 45 other short stories, including Jazz, Bobby Eaton, Kamala, Thunder Rosa, Mario Mancini, Scott Casey, PJ Black, Kerry Morton, Sal Renaro, Jeremiah Plunkett, Colby Carino, Bam Bam Malone, and many others.
Get your book today at Russellville.com. Russellville. It's where wrestling lives.